in a way which refrain us from achieving bigger goals. So by just systematically improving those constant until and unless is no longer a limiting factor, by doing so we can achieve our bigger goals. So that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Afaq. Can we listen to Uruj now?
Assalamu alaikum, sir. Sorry, sir. May I present the screen?
Yes, please.
1 minute, sir. So here I am presenting a recap of yesterday's class. So how do we set relevant goals? So there is a town, temple town Mahabaleshwar. Group of researchers went there, and a group of researchers went there. There is a making a temple. So many workers are working there, and asked questions to three workers. So question is that what are you doing here? So first worker responded that I'm making a living. Second worker is responded that I'm doing the best stone cutting job in the country. And third worker responded, I'm making a temple. As implications are that they are doing the same work, but their responses are very much different. Only third worker can link to his a larger objective. All work in the organization is specialized work, but that specialty is to be linked with a larger objective. And the goals that are set participatively are far more relevant goals than are set up by the top management, because the work is done by the low level workers only, ground workers only. System which ensures participation is far better system coined by the Peter Drucker. And in 1954, Peter Drucker wrote the book Practice of Management, in which he coined the idea of management by objectives. So there are forces of misdirection which you can only check if you have MBO. There are forces of misdirection which misdirect you from your objective. So how to ensure relevancy? You can ensure relevancy when you have a clear understanding arrived at through discussions, deliberations, participations among various stakeholders. Thank you, sir. Ma'am.
Okay, thank you, all three of you. Uh, Now, I will request all three of you at least to keep your mic, your video on. And in fact, others also, it is a good gesture if you keep your video on. That helps me connect better with the students. Now, Arham, you did a good job. You have good command over language, and you very you did a nice job in terms of how linking your personality, how it has been impacted by your act of participating in football.
Thank you, sir.
And this was a good part.
Thank you.
But maybe some more elaborations are required to establish that link between your previous background of commerce and your aspiration to be a marketing manager in a global firm.
Yes, sir.
Uh, a few suggestions with respect to language. Uh, I think some of us have, this is a general point which
Okay.
is applicable to you also. Some of us, when we speak, we have some pet phrases which get into our conversation. Like, for example, in your case, it is like. I also use that expression. Right? So you use like very often. So if we become more conscious of these pet phrases
Yes, sir.
and avoid their repetition too many times,
Sorry. Yes, sir.
otherwise it might create a bit of a boredom. So have some variety.
Sure, sir.
Don't make one phrase as your pet phrase, which you will use always.
Okay, sir.
The second thing is related to the superlatives, use of superlatives. Superlatives uh, sometimes may be necessary, but English or any other language, it has range of expressions to communicate the same idea without using superlatives. For example, I can say I am feeling happy. Hmm?
Yes, sir.
I can say I am very happy. But for that, I can use an expression I
Right.
feel joy, isn't it? So,
Yes, sir.
the word joy would indicate that degree which you want to, you know, communicate that you are very happy. In fact, we can use another word. For example, I'm feeling ecstatic. Ecstasy is another term which is used for higher degree of happiness, isn't
Right,
it?
sir.
So likewise, when you say that my biggest strength is, for example, you can always say my key strength is, my core is strength,
My core strength.
isn't it? So
Right, sir.
that would communicate that biggest thing which you are using. So always use expressions without superlative.
Sure, sir.
Try to find out the exact word which would fit in your. In fact, that is why one of my teacher, Professor Asloom Ahmad Ansari, he was a doyen of English literature in Aligarh. He passed away 3 4 years back at a ripe age of 92 plus, and he was from Oxford. He did his BA from Oxford, and he used to say that there is no synonym. And in fact, he often used to lambast me that why this in your MBA entrance test you have evolved this scheme of MCQs where you ask synonyms. He said there is no synonym of a word.
Right.
In fact, a new word was invented because the first word could not communicate that idea. So your job, I just now, for example, if you say happy, happiness is a synonym of joy,
Um,
and
Maybe, sir, because like as you just told me, I would say ki it is a synonym.
but it is actually not a synonym because it is communicating a different sense of happiness, isn't it? So
Might be.
और ये हर जबान में मैं I came across a person who
Right.
was from Allahabad University in one of the seminars, and he was a retired professor of Hindi literature. And trust me, he communicated the same thing what Professor Aslub Ansari said. So this fellow, Professor Verma, he said कि ये पर्यायवाची क्या होता है? इसलिए ये जल मैं आपसे कहूं कि मैं ये जल पी रहा हूं और मैं ये नीर पी रहा हूं, ये क्या दोनों एक चीज है? क्या मैं पानी पी रहा हूं? पानी, जल और नीर बिल्कुल अलग चीज है। हालांकि पर्यायवाची आप कह सकते हैं इनको, isn't it? हमारे एक उर्दू के बहुत बड़े राइटर गुजरे हैं, प्रोफेसर काजी अब्दुल सत्तार साहब, अली डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ उर्दू के थे, उन्होंने बहुत से नॉवेल्स भी लिखे हैं। तो अपने एक बहुत करीबी स्टूडेंट थे उनके, सैयद मोहम्मद अशरफ, who got into IRS but continued his passion of writing in Urdu, and he won a Sahitya Academy Award also for that. So when he wrote his first book, डार से बिछड़े, काजी अब्दुल सत्तार wrote the foreword of that, और उसमें उन्होंने लिखा कि अशरफ को जबान पे महारत हासिल है। जब उनकी इत्तेफाक से ही वॉज अलाइव when he wrote his last book, which is आखिरी सवारियां, उसका भी foreword उन्होंने लिखा। तो उसमें उन्होंने लफ्ज इस्तेमाल किया कि अशरफ को जबान पे कुदरत हासिल है। अब आप देखिए, दो लफ्ज हैं, महारत और कुदरत।
Kudrat. Right, sir.
तो अशरफ साहब ने जब उनके उस जब लफ्ज को सुना, तो देखिए उन्होंने कहा कि ये 30 साल का सफर है, जिसको सर ने डिस्क्राइब किया कि महारत से कुदरत तक का सफर।
Yes,
So
sir.
using words appropriately, using that word which communicates your idea exactly the way you have in mind. That is the beauty of learning language. Okay. Which is applicable to every language. इसीलिए शायद उर्दू के एक शायर हैं दाग देहलवी, उन्होंने एक शेर कहा कि नहीं खेल यारों से ए दाग कह दो कि आती है उर्दू जबान आते आते, हर जबान आते आते ही आती है।
Right, sir.
Okay. So I wish that we develop that kind of command over language.
Sure, sir.
That's my wish for you and for all other students of the class.
Sure, sir.
Then, Afaq, I am very impressed by your preparation for today's presentation
Thank you,
and
sir.
the way you enriched the content of the class. That's very credible and noteworthy. I've taken a special note of how hard you prepared for the today's recap, and especially the additions that you made. Uh, I have heard of this book, but I have not read it. This book, Goal, which is a very powerful book, I'm told. Yeah, so it is in my wish list that I wish to read it. And now, after you have stated it, I will make an effort to read it even earlier than I was thinking. So that's good of your part. But I think in your case, the key issue is language pronunciation, especially. You have good content, but maybe there is some problem uh, which you need to iron out. For example, sometimes it creates a very, very difficult situation. For example, you are saying measurable, and if you say miserable, it communicates a very different meaning. Isn't it? So focus on your diction, and that will help you reach out better to others, and they will have complete clarity as to what you are saying. So
Sure, sir.
this. Then Uruj, you also did a good job in terms of presentation of the content which we have covered, and you stick to the content. That's okay. In fact, that's good actually in one way, because you are only presenting a recap. So you stuck to the brief, which is a good thing. But maybe in your case, I would wish two things. One, maybe my fault, I need to correct. I was talking of this temple town in southern India, which is called Mahabalipuram. Mahabaleshwar is actually is a hill station near Pune. So maybe it was a slip of tongue on my part. So I was referring to the temple town in southern India, Mahabalipuram, when I gave that example. And it is good that both of you prepared your slides, PowerPoint slides. But when we make a presentation using PowerPoint slides, it is important that we use fonts and the color schemes wisely. Our fonts should be readable. So don't use too small fonts. which are difficult to read. Likewise, use a color combination. My personal suggestion is use a lighter background and darker fonts so that words very clearly ooze out from the slides. Okay. So some of your slides, you have a relook at it. Sometimes what happens is that when we read it, it looks fine to us, but it may not be fine for others who read, especially on a small screen like this. Then it becomes even more difficult. When you are in a class, big class, you are projecting, then maybe it would not matter that much. But even there, it would matter. I have seen many presentations made by teachers in UGC's HRD center in Edinburgh. This color combination is very important. So my thumb rule is lighter background, darker fonts. That's a safe bet.
Okay.
So that's all. I think. Any comment on my feedback, or I might have missed out some point regarding these three speakers, or speakers themselves if they want to reflect on my feedback.
No, sir. Thank you so much for your feedback. Like it will help me in future, like not using those particular words again and again.
So now can we start the class? And the theme which we intend to cover today. Actually, today's class is going to be slightly, more of a in the spirit of a personal reflections on the life that I have lived, and I will try to link it with the issue of planning that we are discussing. And there are supporters of planning, and there are people who doubt the role of planning. So look at it from this point of view. Yes, there are pluses of planning, like for example, planning gives you a sense of direction. We have talked about this. We have also talked about this, that planning then helps you control things better, because when you know the direction in which you are going, it helps you monitor your progress. Are you on the target? So, like for example, if you have set here this target that I'll get into MBA, and this is the exam, which is the day, it is the date of the exam, and then this is the ground I have to cover. And if you have prepared an exact plan for that, it will help you control better. And then it will ward you off from so many distractions. You will move in the. It is like putting blinders on the horses. So what happens when you put blinders on the horses? They sail in a direction. There is no distraction. So that's the advantage of planning. It you know gives you a focus in life. That is what the people who are in favor of planning, they vouch for, or they say in support of planning. But then there are detractors of planning. What is their point? Their point is that planning actually creates rigidity. What you may call focus may be a tunnel vision. You are not able to see beyond. That's the disadvantage, the negative side of planning. And people who cite examples to support this contention, one of the things which you can also test, see the best companies list of, let us say, year 2000, and see the best companies list of 2020. Is the list same? Only few companies are able to retain the top position. Why? If they were so good in planning and that planning helped them reach the top slot, why they could not sustain it? So those who are detractors of this idea, they say that planning actually creates rigidity. Nothing succeeds like success, and success breeds more success. But success also carries in it the seeds of failure. We all know it. बुलंदियों पे पहुंचना कोई कमाल नहीं, बुलंदियों पे ठहरना कमाल होता है. हम में से कितने लोग हैं वो बुलंदियां हासिल करके उसको जस्टिफाई कर पाते. So there are seeds of failure in every success. And people who are of this view, they blame planning for it. They say that planning creates this rigidity. People become, so, enamored by this success which they have got through planning, that they feel that this is the only way to succeed in life. And I have seen this generational conflict also in family businesses also. There will be a patriarch of the family, and he would keep saying, मैंने ऐसे कामयाबी हासिल की, मैंने ये build up किया. And often this becomes the cause of the downfall of the family business. And many times children, they break away from the family. So which view is correct? And before I request you to respond to this contention which I have shared, the two contentions which I have shared, I'll share with you my own life story, especially the life which I have spent in Aligarh, which now spans 40 decades. I came to Aligarh in 1980, and I joined this department as a faculty in 1988. So I can take a long short view of things, the way they have evolved. And I'll request you to listen to this story, not in the spirit of my personal saga, but I want to draw some lessons out of it, especially for planning. I came to Aligarh in 1980. I did my high school from a small town called Bijnor in western UP, and I did reasonably good in my studies in high school. In fact, I was the district topper. And at that point of time, in UP board, this was considered quite an achievement. So my father was very happy and he had high expectations from me. So he sent me to Aligarh, his own alma mater. He has also studied here, so he had a lot of passion for Aligarh. So he sent me to Aligarh with high expectations and hopes. And his major hope was that he said, go there and become a doctor. So he wanted me to do an MBBS. I came to Aligarh with that hope, joined PCB stream in class 11th. It was called PUC then, pre-university course. And I did reasonably well. My brother was already there, so I had all the comforts of life here. And then I did the pre-medical course, PMC as it was called, class 12, and wrote my MBBS exam, PMT exam, but could not make it. So my elders in the hostel, my brother's friends, my father, everyone, they said, no worry. MBBS is a tough exam. Only few are able to make it in the first attempt. So try it next time. So I took admission in BSc and started preparing for MBBS again. But that was my third year of stay in AMU. By then I had a life of my own. I got a single seated room in Aftab hostel, so that was a big plus. So I had now my own friend circle, and I had a vanity, my own vanity of a good student, especially because of my high school achievement. But Aligarh was a place where I could not. यहाँ तो हर आदमी अपने अपने जगह का कमाल था. तो अब what is big deal? How do you make a distinction for yourself? हिंदी मीडियम से जब आता है तो आदमी वैसे भी थोड़ा घबराया घबराया रहता है. तो उसमें इंग्लिश मीडियम में एकदम स्विच ओवर करना अपने आप में एक था टफ चैलेंज. एंड देन हाउ डू यू डिस्टिंग्विश? So what I started doing in Aligarh, I started participating in a literary event called Baitbazi. अब वो बैतबाजी का ये बैकग्राउंड ये था कि माय मदर इज एन एविड रीडर एंड शी इज ए literary genius, if I can use that expression, especially for Urdu couplets. I mean, even at this advanced stage of her life, she would come up with a couplet which would fit in the situation exactly. So she has that knack of coming up with exact couplet describing a situation. So because of her, I had developed a taste for Urdu couplets because I would keep listening to them in my house. And often she would read out when there was less of intrusion of technology in our homes. So our pastime was we would sit around, all four of us. We would sit around her and she would read some interesting stuff for us. Or she was fond of Jasusi Dunia, so she would, I mean, लगता था कि जैसे इमरान और ये कैप्टन फरीदी हमारे घर के ही कोई हिस्से हैं, क्योंकि that was the thing which she would talk about. So that way she helped us develop that literary taste in all her four kids. So I started participating in Baitbazi competitions and I started doing reasonably well. So what I'm saying is that I was drawn to life beyond my academics in Aligarh. अच्छा उसमें what has happened, one of my friend in PUC days had made it to MBBS in the first attempt. अब मैं उसके पास जब जाता था तो उसकी लाइफ इतनी मुझे लगता था कि it is so packed. He hardly had time for me. वो 6 से 8 उसे वार्ड जाना होता था और पता नहीं. But I was a bit then having some kind of doubts whether I would enjoy this kind of life. So, but I could never muster courage to share it with my father. So, second attempt also I wrote my PMT exam, but it was a half-hearted attempt. I know it was a half-hearted attempt. I was performing a motion. I was not actually seriously inclined to it. And with half efforts, we don't get half results. We get no results. So I could not make it to MBBS second time. But in my third year of BSc, I could muster enough courage and told my father, "This is not for me. Please excuse me. I will not be able to go for MBBS." And he was initially very upset and said, "फिर क्या करोगे?" So by then, Aligarh has all kind of diversity. I had a side room partner who had done his PUC in science stream and then has taken admission in BA. And he had a clear aim that he will try for civil services. and he has chosen history as his one of the option in BA, the main honors in history. And when I asked, he said that's the best paper for civil services. So I've built up my base of science through PUC science, and now I will that will help me in journalist studies, and then now I'm getting into social sciences, BA, history. So this was there in my mind. So under his influence, I decided that let me also get into MA history. So when my father asked me कि भाई तुम क्या करोगे, मैंने कहा मैं MA history करूँगा. Now it was a shock of his life. I said MA history. Okay, in those days, good students studied science. The lesser mortals studied arts and humanities and this kind of stuff. तो मैंने कहा नहीं MA history करना. तो he said कि बड़ी बेइज्जती हो जाएगी, तुम ऐसा करो कि MA इंग्लिश लिटरेचर में कर लो. मैंने किया था, देखो मैं कहूँगा कि भाई फैमिली ट्रेडिशन को फॉलो कर रहा है इसलिए MA कर रहा है इंग्लिश लिटरेचर. I said no, MA English literature is not good option for civil services. So finally I, like all good fathers, he relented. He said ठीक है भाई, it's your life, whatever you want to do. But he put a condition. He said, you know, after 3 years, your younger brother will also be joining the university. So for a college teacher, affording the education of 3 kids, my elder brother was already here, would be difficult. So you have to give this commitment that after 3 years you would be on your own. And I said yes, fair enough. And with great hopes, I took admission in MA history. And trust me, till date, that is the best period of my academic life in India. History department had such stalwarts, teachers who would enthrall you intellectually. People like Professor Khaliq Ahmad Nizami, Professor Irfan Habib. Irfan Habib is, Alhamdulillah, still alive and contributing. He is, in a way, the face of the department and face of not only department, AMU. And there were lesser teachers also, lesser known teachers, but real intellectual giants. Professor R.C. Gaud was there. He used to teach us ancient history. So that was the best period of my academic life, and I did reasonably well. I don't know why. Maybe I had a flair for literature, so maybe I was meant for social sciences that way and humanities. And in fact, I had studied history for the first time, but in my MA previous, I was the second topper. And my batchmate, Sayyida Saikia, who was the topper finally of that batch, now she is a professor of history in Arizona State University in US. And she has done some wonderful research on peace-related matters, which Afaq was talking about. So someday when you have time, do read her book, especially what she has wrote on Bangladesh, creation of Bangladesh, and how it has impacted women there. So the point that I'm making is that I was actually enjoying my life in history department, and I became the seminar secretary. So that was another kick that I got. And in fact, this culture of seminar was a wonderful culture there. I mean, history department became a part of my life. I would not go there just to attend the classes. At 8 a.m. I would wake up, and the first thought would be I should go to history. That was the kind of involvement that I had developed. But then something happened, which forced me to change my course. And that was I had a chance meeting with one of my batchmate of PUC days. He had made it to MBBS in the third attempt, and he was feeling very high on that account. So we had a chance meeting, and आफ्ताब हॉल की जो रोड है उस पर भी met. और उसने जैसे पूछते हैं दोस्त वही क्या कर रहे हो, उनके सामने MA हिस्ट्री कर रहा हूँ. And he was surprised and expressed shock. अरे हिस्ट्री MA क्या करोगे? He said civil services. अरे तो बहुत दूर की चीज है, अभी you need to have a job. तो इनका फिर आप ही बताएं मैं क्या करूं. He said ये हिस्ट्री छोड़ो, तुम डिप्लोमा इंजीनियरिंग कर लो. And that was a shock of my life. What happens is, we judge ourselves by our potential, but others judge us by our performance, past performance. So, by his definition of success, I was a failure. So, ready to receive, should be ready to receive advice of everyone, including him. तो सेट डिप्लोमा इंजीनियरिंग कर लो, कम से कम इनका उससे क्या होगा कि 3-4 हज़ार की नौकरी मिल जाएगी, कुछ काम चल जाएगा. ये सब MA से कुछ नहीं होता. He said fine. And did not show my displeasure to him. Came back to my room and did some deep contemplation. And said, I then came up with this idea that I have to professionally secure myself first. Civil services was right in the sense that it's a distant dream, and you could either be a hero or a zero if you don't make it. So I thought, let me secure myself, and that is when I decided that I have to do MBA now, because that was the only professional course available. And that year I wrote my MBA exam and made it to MBA. And trust me, with heavy heart, I left my MA history course and joined MBA. I did reasonably well, maybe amongst top 20% of the students of the class, but not the best of the lot. They were all bright students who had made it to MBA. So what happened after doing my MBA, I did not opt for a regular corporate kind of job. Because of that civil services kira in my mind. Because I had made up this mind that I have to be civil servant. So, but I have made that promise to my father, that after 3 years I'll be on my own. So I wrote JRF exam, and fortunately I qualified it, and that secured me financially. And I took admission under Professor Azhar Kazmi, whose book you would be studying in your second year in strategic management course. So, but I told him, sir, please give me 1 year's time. In this year, I will prepare for civil services. And he said, but you will have to make up. He said, yes, I promised. I said, I'll make up in the second year. But give me 1 full year for preparation. And I qualified the prelims exam. I was writing my mains exam. There is a gap of 3-4 months in prelims and mains. So by then, again, something happened. A vacancy cropped up in the department. And like all other research scholars who were there then, I also filled my form. And I was the only JRF holder at that point of time amongst the competing persons. So I was selected. So, and that happened in October. My mains exam was due in November. So I did not join because you had a joining period of 4 months. So I wrote my MA exam. Well, I wrote my mains exam. But what happened when you get selected to something? तो अलीगढ़ में आपका एक सोशल और फ्रेंड सर्किल है और सब मुबारकबाद का सिलसिला शुरू हो गया, कह रहे चाय हो जाए जिगर और ये हो जाए all kind. So my momentum for preparation for mains was lost, and naturally because of that I could not get into that. But my friend said, no issues, you are now already in academics, so you write this exam next year. But trust me, ever since I started teaching, it was something which fascinated me. Maybe both my parents were teachers. It was in my blood. So I started enjoying my teaching. And civil services became a distant and even more distant gradually. I never looked back. Now, why did I state this saga? Even now, if I'm given another chance to choose my life, I would still love to be a teacher. But was there a plan in my decisions? What do you think? There's a couplet. It says कि बेख्याली में भी कितने फासले तय हो गए. I've already spent 42 years of my life in Aligarh. बेख्याली में भी कितने फासले तय हो गए, बेइरादा भी ये दुनिया दूर ले आई बहुत. So that bekhayali, what does it indicate? We respond to situations, we take decisions at the spur of the moment, or do we really plan very systematically, orderly, think before you act?
So the point is that what
Yes, I will appreciate when you speak if you can open your video. Yes,
sorry
yes,
sir, there was some interruption. So I was saying that till the time one didn't get satisfied the thing in his mind and in his heart, till the time one didn't get satisfied he will continue pursuing the goal. In that time frame many things will come to which he has to maintain for maintaining livelihood one has to attain them. So this could be the point that while going on a long journey one has to grab the opportunities which is coming in his way or the path. This is what I think, sir.
So
May I
actually,
speak?
yes, sure, Farhan.
Sir, according to me, we cannot treat things in isolation. We have to take the externalities which are happening around our environment and
Okay,
choose the things accordingly. So,
okay.
sir, what you did was, according to me, the right thing because you choose the best option available there at that point of time, according to you. So, sir, that's the thing I want to say.
So what you both of you are suggesting is that we respond to external environment, hmm, and that outside shapes our inside.
So we have to adjust accordingly. We cannot just uh, leave the extremes out there.
So Verma says that sometimes no plan is the best plan. Is it so? Sometimes it may create a situation of a rudderless ship also, जहाँ हवा ले जाए. Isn't it?
Yes, sir, it may be.
तो क्या हम इसको प्रमोट कर रहे हैं यहाँ इस एग्जाम्पल के जरिए कि साहब बस कश्ती दरिया में डाल दीजिए फिर जहाँ ले जाए वो. Should we not have a sense of direction? कहाँ जाना है?
So, but the thing is that one should keep trying. One should keep striving. Then famous couplet
So
came into mind that गिरते हैं
So,
शाह सुपारी मैदान जंग में वो तिफल क्या गिरेंगे जो घुटनों के बल चले.
Very good. Very apt. So yes, falling down is a part of success, and rising up again, that's the key to success. In fact, failure and success are not two parts, are not two different things. Failures are inbuilt part of success. So yes, we keep moving. And there is a couplet which says it very beautifully कि ये तो तय है कि सफर करना है, ये नहीं तय कि किधर जाना है. तो सफर करने का इरादा होता है, सबका होता है. And I shared with you that example of dialogue between Cat and Alice in that wonderful classic Alice in the Wonderland. And Cat says that you are sure to do if you walk long enough. You will reach somewhere. Isn't it? But what is the point which I am trying to communicate through this example? So let me put it more. Can we have some more responses before I put it more academically and link it all these ideas
So,
which you are sharing? Yes.
yes, sir. So, what I observe is that your ultimate goal was to get financially independent. You wanted to get financially stable, and then you started taking steps according to that. Because
Okay.
this has happened in my case as well. I planned for something else, but now I'm doing an MBA for some personal reasons. Same goes with you, that you wanted to get financially independent because your father said that I want you to be on your own once you are like after 3 years. So you had this thing in your mind that I have to get financially independent, so you started taking steps according to that. But when you saw that ME history was something that will not, might not, no, I'm not saying it will not, might not give you financial independence, then you decided to pursue an MBA. So you were taking steps, and you actually started, you had a plan, but you then started moving with the flow, that go with the flow wala thing. You started doing that. So I think, yeah, your ultimate goal was set that you wanted to get financially independent, but the plan that you had in between, it has slight changes to it. So yeah, this is what I can say here.
Right. It is exactly like that. But then what I'm saying is, because we have started the discussion on these 2 points, two worldviews. One says planning is important. Other says no, planning is not important. And we are trying to figure out which view communicates the reality better. That's my point.
So I think there should be plan, but it should not be as rigid as people, try to make it. Because when we have a plan, we make it, and if there's no flexibility to it, then it sort of puts a pressure on ourselves as well. It happens with everyone, I guess. So there should be a plan, but with flexibility. That if some changes are occurring in your life, you are able to adapt to it. That's it, I guess.
So what I think more abruptly we could say that uh, professorship in this case would be plan B for a civil servant. For an aspirant, it should be plan B.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it was a plan B, and in fact, it became plan A at some stage. So I detected my calling. I would use this expression. It was there in my side, inside me, but it was dormant. I didn't know that there is a teacher in me. I don't know whether it was in my genes or what, but it was there. So if some of us discover that calling, our calling, that would be a great thing. And sooner you detect it, better it would be for us. I became a teacher at the age of 23. And that gave me a long inning as a teacher. I have already put in 32 odd years, even more than that. And I still have 8 to 9 years left with me. So when you have a long inning, naturally your scope for contribution to that profession is more. But some of us discover our calling late. We have one of our colleagues has done a research on midlife career crisis. Many of us face midlife career crisis when we have sorted out the bread related issues, and we have got bread as also butter on our table. Then we often ask this question: am I in the right place? So that is why, discovering at that stage, and many of our friends have switched to other careers. So what we are now, let me put it in a perspective. Mintzberg says that actually what happens is we all have intentions. When I came to Aligarh, I had broad intentions, I had specific intentions. Many a times these intentions are shaped by our own personality, but often at times these intentions are shaped by people around us. क्योंकि हाई स्कूल की स्टेज पे आपको इतनी समझ नहीं होती है. We get swayed by our elders, or we get swayed by our peers, whatever. But we have intentions. We have what we call this an intended, Mintzberg calls it intended strategy. So I came to Aligarh with that intended strategy. But often at times in life, we don't put in efforts on all our intentions. Isn't it? And we make deliberate efforts on some of our intentions. Do you agree? It happens like this.
Yes, sir.
For example, I let me share with you one of my intentions. My elder brother is blessed with a golden voice, and he was an exquisite ghazal singer, and he has earned a name for himself in the campus for his quality of ghazal singing. He would mesmerize with his voice. I was also under his influence, and started learning music from one of the teacher, Ustad Shamsuddin Sheikh Sahib. He was a doyen, but unfortunately could never put in enough efforts required for picking up that. So it was an intention, but it remained an unrealized strategy. So we have an intended strategy and we have a deliberate strategy. And There is an unrealized strategy because you have not put in enough efforts, or sometimes we put efforts, even then we fail, isn't it? So either because of that, either of these reasons, either we don't put in enough efforts, or we put in efforts but we don't put in enough efforts, or something happens, whatever, a large part of our intended strategy remains unrealized. तो जो हम deliberately जिस पे काम करते हैं उसमें से हर चीज रिजल्ट नहीं देती है। तो देखिए 3 हो गया, इंटेंडेड स्ट्रेटेजी, डेलिबरेट स्ट्रेटेजी और रियलाइज्ड स्ट्रेटेजी। These are the 3 levels we have. ये तो वो हो रहा है कि जो हमारा एक प्लान वाला पार्ट। I assume that intended strategy was our plan. तो उस प्लान में से कुछ चीज रियलाइज हो, उसके अलावा एक और चीज हो रही होती है जिसके बारे में आप लोग भी बात कर रहे थे, मैंने भी उसकी तरफ इशारा किया था। वो ये था कि देयर आर मेनी थिंग्स व्हिच वी डू इन लाइफ व्हिच आर नॉट पार्ट ऑफ द प्लान, वी जस्ट डू इट। जैसे हर आदमी का पास टाइम होता है, मेरा पास टाइम ये था कि मैं बैतबाजी के कंपटीशन में पार्ट ले रहा था। मेरा बैतबाजी में कंपटीशन से पहले ये था कि आई वाज under the influence of my mother, and as a result of it I was reading all kind of good literature just for the heck of it, as a pastime, good time spent, whatever is the leisure time. लेकिन क्या हो रहा है कि आपने जब उर्दू कपलेट्स पे फोकस किया, उर्दू लिटरेचर पे फोकस किया, तो जब बहुत होता रहा, जैसे आपने आपका फर्स्ट एनकाउंटर हुआ बीएससी में जब आप थे सेकेंड ईयर में, फिर एमबीए तक आपने 40 ऐसे कॉम्पिटिशन्स में हिस्सा लिया, बैतबाजी के कॉम्पिटिशन्स में। तो विद एवरी एनकाउंटर योर स्टॉक ऑफ कपलेट्स इंक्रीजेस, बट दिस इज हैपनिंग अनकॉन्शियसली। लेकिन उससे क्या हो रहा है, एक पैटर्न इमर्ज हो रहा है। सो वी इंडल्ज इन एक्शंस, and when these actions are repeated over a period of time consistently, they converge and they form a pattern. So there is an emergent strategy. अब मैं चौथा टर्म कॉइन कर रहा हूं, emergent strategy. What is that emergent strategy? It is the combination of, various actions you have been taking, you have been engaged in consistently over a period of time. और जब बैतबाजी के कंपटीशन में हिस्सा ले रहा था तो मुझे बिल्कुल इस बात का एहसास नहीं था कि इट विल कम ए वेरी हैंडी टूल इन माय बीइंग एन इफेक्टिव टीचर, लेकिन आज मैं जब अपने 32 साल की जिंदगी पे देखता हूँ तो मेरे स्टूडेंट जब मुझसे मिलते हैं पुराने, ये चीज वो अब भी याद करते हैं कि आपने उस मौके पे ये शेयर कहा। इनफैक्ट वन ऑफ माय स्टूडेंट रोट एन आर्टिकल ऑन दिस, व्हाट काइंड ऑफ एनकाउंटर्स वी हैड on Urdu couplets in the class. So there is an emergent strategy. So actually what happens is that in our life, our realized strategy is a combination of what we had originally thought of and what happens to us. जिसको आप कह रहे हैं, तालीम कह रहे हैं कि circumstances, opportunities emerge. So there was an opportunity and I capitalized that opportunity. So let me now share with you a PPT which puts this together. Let me see whether I can do it. I hope I'll be able to do it. Can you see this?
Yes, sir. Now it's coming. Yes, sir.
You can see.
So we have two views which we have shared. We say strategy is a plan, what I call intended strategy. So yes, we have our plan and that helps. And when we look at a strategy from this perspective, it becomes a direction, a guide, a path to reach from point A to point B. So we have formulated a strategy. Suppose I would have formulated this strategy, कैसे MBBS में जाना है and all that. And how do we make that plan? Again, there is a, ये हमेशा होगा, देखिए external और internal का linkage. I am using an expression, please note very carefully. What do we do in life? We match internal capabilities with external possibilities. In a nutshell, this is what planning is all about. Matching internal capabilities with external possibilities. अब आप ये पूछेंगे कि साहब एक्सटर्नल पहले आएगा कि इंटरनल पहले आएगा, आई डोंट नो. इसका जवाब आज तक किसी को नहीं मिलता. कि पहले हम सेंस करते हैं आउटसाइड को, फिर अपना अंदर देखते हैं, या पहले अंदर देखते हैं फिर आउटसाइड को सेंस करते हैं. लेकिन जो व्यू ये कहता है कि स्ट्रेटजी इज ए प्लान, वो ये कहता है कि पहले हम एक्सटर्नल को देखते हैं, फिर अपने इंटरनल को देखते हैं और उसके बेसिस पे स्ट्रेटजी बनाते हैं. Let us move ahead. So,
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Sir, how flexible can a plan be while matching the external opportunities with internal capabilities? Because as in your case, we saw that you were kind of going with the flow. You recognized the opportunities and then acted upon it as per, like, even if you're not interested in it, because that was the only option that was available to you. So your plans are quite flexible in that manner. So how much flexibility can be given to a plan in order to match the external opportunities with internal capabilities?
I'll come back to your question. Maybe in the course of this discussion, I will answer it. But hold your question. It's not that I'm slighting it in any way. I'll get back to this question. But let me complete this discussion first. And if this discussion answers your query, fair enough. Otherwise, we'll revisit. Okay. So please hold on for a while. So we say that the strategy is a plan. And it's like a person holding a binocular in his hand or in her hand and peeping into the future and making a plan based on that. But then there is another view which Mintzberg proposed, and he says strategy actually is not a plan, is a pattern. And strategy evolves. It is not formulated. In fact, he used this beautiful expression. He said, in fact, he wrote an article in HBR on this theme, and the title of the article was Crafting a Strategy. What is a craft?
Piece of art, to make a piece of art.
So are we not crafting our life? Are we formulating a plan? Or are we crafting our life? Mintzberg says that often it so happens that we craft. Now craft, जैसे आपने कहा, it's a piece of art. Or we create exquisite crafted items because of our involvement, because of our intimacy with the craft. All beautiful craftsmen
अभी मैं एक बेहतरीन खूबसूरत अब वो पढ़ रहा था, रिफ्लेक्शन ऑन लता मंगेशकर, and this was by maybe I'll share it on the your WhatsApp group. This fellow is a surgeon, and he was a principal of a medical college in Pakistan.
प्रोफेसर जावेद इकबाल।
Yes, उन्होंने इतना खूबसूरत खराज अकीदत लता को पेश किया। उन्होंने कहा एक बार मेरे पास कॉलेज के स्टूडेंट कॉलेज की मैगजीन के लिए आए इंटरव्यू लेने मेरा, और मुझसे पूछा कि आपने इतनी खूबसूरत सर्जरी कहाँ से सीखी?
तो इन्होंने उससे कहा कि मैंने लता मंगेशकर से सीखी। तो दे वर नेचुरली क्विज्ड एंड सरप्राइज्ड कि लता मंगेशकर से आपने सर्जरी सीखी। तो उन्होंने इतनी खूबसूरत बात कही कि देखिए, हर आर्टिस्ट का बेसिक अप्रोच एक होता है।
उसका एक स्ट्रोक पेंटिंग को बिगाड़ सकता है, उसका एक स्ट्रोक पेंटिंग में नई जान पैदा कर सकता है। तो मेरे लिए सर्जरी जो है वो एक आर्ट है जो मैंने लता से सीखी। जब मैं उनका गाना सुनता हूँ तो वो जिस तरह से अल्फाज की अदायगी करती हैं, अगर वो काफ कह रही होती हैं तो अलग होता है उनका अंदाज, काफ कह रही होती हैं तो अलग होता है। और फिर वो जब उस पे म्यूजिक के सुर बांधती हैं तो ऐसा समा बन जाता है कि मुझे लगा कि अगर मुझे अपनी सर्जरी सीखनी है तो मुझे ये उसको उसी तरह एक पीस ऑफ आर्ट सीखना है। दिस इज क्राफ्ट। जब आप जिस काम को कर रहे हैं उसमें इतना इंटीमेट आपका इन्वॉल्वमेंट हो जाए, आपको लगे कि ये मेरी जिंदगी का हिस्सा है, एक हार्मोनी हो जाए आपके काम में और जिंदगी, दैट इज व्हेन यू हैव बिकम ए क्राफ्ट। और इसका बड़ा खूबसूरत एक मिसाल मिन्सबर्ग ने दी, like you are like a potter working on the wheel. In fact, Mintzberg's wife is a potter and she teaches this art to students in the same university, McGill University, where he also teaches. तो मैंने मिन्सबर्ग कहते हैं, मैंने उनसे पूछा एक बार कि भाई ये आप इतने एक्सक्विजिट आइटम्स कैसे बना लेती हैं? तो उन्होंने यही कहा कि देखिए, आई हैव ए फील, शी यूज द टर्म आई हैव ए फील फॉर द क्ले। व्हाट इज, हाउ डू वी डेवलप दैट फील फॉर द क्ले? जब आपके हाथ मिट्टी को टच करते हैं और व्हील घूम रहा होता है, you start giving shape to that mud. And she said कि देखिए ऐसा होता है, कभी कभी मैं एक आइडिया लेके चलती हूँ, क्योंकि when I sit on the wheel, I have my past behind. What I know what has worked in the past, but I fiddle with the ideas here and there. हो सकता है मैं इनिशियली मेरा आइडिया ये होगा कि मैं सिलेंड्रिकल एक वास बनाऊँ, but I may finally end up making an oval vase. लेकिन जो मैं कर रही हूँ उसमें एक आपको कनेक्ट जरूर नजर आएगा। ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं आई ब्रेक फ्रॉम द पास्ट। और जब मैं ये कॉन्सेप्चुअलाइजेशन इन वन ऑफ माय एमबीए क्लास डिस्कस कर रहा था तो मुझे याद है, मेरा एक बड़ा परसेप्टिव स्टूडेंट था, उसने बड़ी खूबसूरत बात की। उसने ये कहा कि देखिए सर, आपने एक बात मिस की इसमें। जब हम when we are sitting on the wheel and our hands are touching the clay, कहीं ना कहीं हमारी उंगलियों के निशानात भी क्ले पर आ जाते हैं। जो हमारी फिंगर प्रिंट्स हैं वो उस पर इम्प्रिंट हो जाते हैं। एंड फ्रॉम दैट we inferred that there is a role of luck, there is a role of destiny also in this entire process. अब वो क्यों होता है, वी डोंट नो। किस एफर्ट को ऊपर वाला जिला दे देता है और दुनिया आपको कहती है कि आप कामयाब हैं। So there is a role of destiny also in the entire process. So strategy as a pattern. तो इसमें क्या होता है, इसमें थोड़ा सा जो फॉर्मुलेशन और इम्प्लीमेंटेशन का, हम जैसे स्ट्रेटजी एज ए प्लान में कह रहे थे कि ये दो डिस्टिंक्ट प्रोसेस हैं, ये व्यू कहता है कि नहीं, ये एक्चुअली मर्ज हो जाता है, एक आइडिया के बाद दूसरा आइडिया आ जाता है। और ये मैंने एक्सप्रेशन पहले भी यूज किया है, हैंड्स बिकम द कटिंग एज ऑफ माइंड, एक्शन ड्राइव्स, और उससे स्ट्रेटजी है जो है वो इमर्ज होती है। तो एज पर दिस व्यू, स्ट्रेटजी इज एक्चुअली ए पैटर्न which is actually a consistency in behavior over time. So strategy actually is a pattern which is realized over time because of your consistent involvement in. अब मैं इसके इस विजुअल पार्ट पे आता हूं जो मैं आपसे बताने की कोशिश कर रहा था orally. Now you can see I have borrowed it from Mintzberg only. We have, I was talking of the intended strategy, then we have a deliberate strategy, and then we have a realized strategy. और इसमें एक अनरियलाइज्ड स्ट्रेटजी का भी एलिमेंट रहता है, मैंने यहीं दिखाया है डेलिबरेट, इंटेंडेड और डेलिबरेट। मुझे लगता है इससे पहले भी होता है, क्योंकि कुछ इंटेंशंस पे हम लोग काम नहीं करते। Whatever, a part of our intended strategy remains unrealized. That's the core. तो ये इसको तो मान लीजिए फर्स्ट हाफ है, एक ऊपर का हाफ है लाइफ का, और एक नीचे का पार्ट है लाइफ का, जिसमें क्या हो रहा है कि यू आर इंडल्ज्ड और यू आर एंगेज्ड इन सेवरल एक्शंस। उनमें से कुछ एक्शंस यू रिपीट ओवर टाइम, एंड एज ए रिजल्ट ऑफ इट a pattern gets formed and you have an emergent strategy. And what you get finally is actually a combination of what you had originally thought and what happens to you in due course of your life. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
अब सवाल
Yes,
ये
sir.
है कि ऊपर वाला ज्यादा होता है कि नीचे वाला ज्यादा होता है?
Sir, I think it's a combination of both. Like
कॉम्बिनेशन
opportunities are
तो
present.
है, लेकिन क्या 50-50% है, या
No,
ऊपर
sir.
का 70% है, नीचे का 30% है, या नीचे का 70% है, ऊपर का 30% है?
So ऊपर का 70% है, नीचे का 30%, वो me.
So for me, नीचे का 70% है, ऊपर का 30% है. Because God Himself said to us that you perform your well, leave other things to me only. You give your 100% to the thing you are doing.
वेरी राइट। और हर रिलीजन में इस कॉन्सेप्ट को किसी अलग शक्ल में, जैसे हमने गीता के बारे में पढ़ा कि निष्काम कर्म का कॉन्सेप्ट, कर्म कर, फल की चिंता न कर, क्योंकि फल किसी और के हाथ में।
सर 80-20 का भी रेशियो हो सकता है।
हाँ,
80 हमारा और 20 ऊपर वाले का, बट कभी कभी इन रियलिटी, लेट्स फेस द रियलिटी, ये 20 कभी कभार 80 के ऊपर भारी पड़ जाता है। सो दैट्स ऑल पार्ट ऑफ लाइफ। सो
एक्चुअली
I read a very interesting quote on this account. It said, "Life is what happens to us when we were busy making other plans."
Correct, sir. Correct.
Isn't it?
And so
So
there is also a quote, God is
we
the
have,
best planner.
pardon,
The
pardon,
God is
Farhan.
the best planner.
We have our own plans, but God has His own plans. And in life, what may appear an end may only be a bend. What may sound an end may only be a bend. रास्ता बता.
Sir, I think destiny is more important than hard work because sometimes we do the hard work in the right, we work in the right direction, we plan in the right direction, but still it's the destiny which drives us to the fate. Means it's the destiny which is.
There is a quote which says, "Harder you work, luckier you get." The luckier
So
you work,
moreover,
the luckier you get, harder you work. It's a cycle. Yes.
मोreover जब हमको कुरान में ही आ गया कि अल्लाह ताला किसी कौम के हालात तब तक नहीं बदलता जब तक वो अपने हालात खुद नहीं बदलती, so that makes it very clear to us.
Very true. तो अब इस व्यू के हिसाब से इनसाइट शुड डोमिनेट द आउटसाइड. And chance always favors a prepared man. क्या बगैर प्रिपरेशन के हम चांसेस को अवेल कर सकते हैं?
So we cannot do that. मतलब जब तक हम लोगों का प्रिपरेशन ही नहीं होगा, हम लोगों के पास अपॉर्चुनिटीज कितनी भी हैं, we won't have that level of mentality that we can have that in our life. So हम लोगों को हार्ड वर्क भी करना चाहिए. और ये डेस्टिनी की बात सर, जैसे आपने गीता का उदाहरण दिया था, गीता में ये लिखा हुआ है कि आप कर्म की चिंता, आप कर्म करो, फल की चिंता मत करो. बट आपके पास इसमें ये पॉसिबिलिटी है कि आप अपनी डेस्टिनी चेंज कर सकते हो. आप अगर कर्म करते रहोगे, अगर आपका कर्म अच्छा होगा, if you are going for hard work, then you have the possibility that you can change your destiny. Even अब मैं इसमें आपका इकबाल साहब का भी करना चाहूंगी. खुद को कर बुलंद इतना कि क्या आपका जो वो वाला है, खुद को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा तुझसे खुद पूछे कि बोल
खुदा
तेरी
बंदे से खुद पूछे, बता तेरी
रजा क्या है.
You're right. एक्चुअली कभी आप इधर से जाएं, बर्छी बहादुर जो ये दरगाह पड़ती है स्टेशन के पास, अलीगढ़ रेलवे स्टेशन के,
यस सर,
तो वहाँ एक कपलेट लिखा हुआ है कि कोई अंदाजा कर सकता है, वो भी शायद अल्लामा इकबाल का ही है, कोई अंदाजा कर सकता है उसके जोर बाजू का, निगाहे मर्द मोमिन से बदल जाती हैं तकदीरें. तो आप अगर एक कामिल इंसान, एक अकॉम्प्लिश्ड इंसान बनते हैं तो इस प्रोसेस में तकदीर भी बदल. हालांकि हमारे बुजुर्ग ये कहते हैं कि तकदीर पे बहुत ज़्यादा डिस्कशन नहीं करना चाहिए, लेकिन ये फैक्ट है कि इन पे मुझे हज़रत अली का एक वाक़या बहुत याद आता है. तो उनका कहीं मैंने पढ़ा था, उनके पास एक आदमी आया और उनसे सवाल किया कि इंसान जो है वो मुख्तार है कि मजबूर है. मुख्तार मतलब ही इज ऑल पावरफुल, ही कैन डू, उसके पास इख्तियार है,
लीडर.
तो उससे ये सब उन्होंने, उस आदमी ने उनसे सवाल किया कि ये बताइए कि इंसान जो है वो मुख्तार है कि मजबूर है. उन्होंने उसको जवाब नहीं दिया और ये कहा कि अच्छा तुम पहले अपना एक पैर उठाओ. तो उसने एक पैर उठाया. उससे उन्होंने कहा कि अब दोनों पैर एक साथ उठाओ. तो नहीं, ये तो मैं नहीं कर सकता, तो नहीं हो पाएगा. तो उन्होंने कहा कि भाई यही इंसान का है, पहला कदम उठाने का उसके पास इख्तियार है. तो दैट इसको साइकोलॉजिस्ट कहते हैं रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी। रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी को उन्होंने ब्रेक किया, रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी। आपके पास ये एबिलिटी ऊपर वाले ने दी है कि आप कदम उठा सकते
फर्स्ट स्टेप हमें ही लेना है।
हैं। यस, योर फर्स्ट स्टेप इज द इम्पोर्टेंट स्टेप।
So may I add?
Yes.
So in this dawat, when we give dawat to Muslims and non-Muslims alike, we use this example very often. Okay, there is this क्योंकि qadar is something we cannot let go of, but again hard work is something we cannot let go of either. और ये कंसेप्ट भी बिठाना बहुत जरूरी है कि भाई आपकी मेहनत के बावजूद भी अगर आपको सिला मिल रहा है तो ऊपर वाले की तरफ से मिल रहा है, आपका कमाल नहीं। तो उसमें हम ये किसानों का एग्जाम्पल जो है बहुत इस्तेमाल करते हैं कि किसान जो है जमीन को फाड़ के उसमें बीज रख तो देता है, लेकिन उस बीज में से पौधा निकालना कि एक छोटा सा एक डेलिकेट सा अंकुर जो है बीज को फाड़े निकले, फिर जमीन को फाड़ के निकले, सरवाइव करे, पूरा पेड़ बने, इसमें इंसान का कमाल कोई नहीं। मतलब ये है कि भले से इसमें खुदा का कमाल जरूर हो, लेकिन पहला स्टेप उसमें इंसान का ही था। अगर किसान घर पे बैठ जाए कि भाई अगर अल्लाह ताला को पेड़ उगाना होगा तो उगा देंगे, गेहूं की फसल ऐसे ही नजर को जो है बाहर आ जाएगी, तो बेशक वो उगा दे, लेकिन वो उगाता नहीं। जब तक किसान जाके बीज नहीं डालेगा तब तक गेहूं नहीं उगेगा। तो भले से उसमें किसान का कोई कमाल ना हो, लेकिन स्टेप पहला जरूर किसान का ही था।
अभी परसों हमारी एक मीटिंग चल रही थी, हमारे उस्ताद हैं सुनील हांडा साहब, वो he taught me in 92 this a course on entrepreneurship, and ever since then we are connected. तो एक वेंचर के सिलसिले में हम लोगों ने जूम मीटिंग रखी थी। तो ये जो तुम बात कह रहे हो बिल्कुल एग्जैक्टली उन्होंने इसी बात को एक अलग अंदाज से कहा, और उन्होंने ये सवाल किया, कह रहे थे मैं आज तक इस सवाल का जवाब नहीं पाया कि मैं 1 किलो प्याज की वो गांठें लाया और मैंने अपने घर में लगाई और इतनी बम्पर क्रॉप आई कि तकरीबन 100 किलो की प्याज मुझे मिली। और मैं इस सवाल का जवाब अपने आप से चाह रहा था कि मुझे मिल जाए कि ये 100 किलो कहाँ से आया। भाई उसने सूरज से रोशनी ले ली, फोटोसिंथेसिस हो गया, ठीक, जमीन कोई हल्की नहीं हुई, तो ये 1 किलो से 100 किलो कैसे हो गया, कहाँ से आया ये 99 किलो। लेकिन इस 99 किलो में एक कंट्रीब्यूशन था, और उन्होंने बताया कि हम एक पत्ता अपना वेस्ट नहीं होने देते हैं घर पर। जो भी हमारे यहाँ पेड़ जो भी चीज निकलती है वो एक बिन्स बनाए हैं, उसमें बेड्स बनाए गए हैं, उसमें वो भर दिया जाता है, और फिर एक माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिज्म है वो बाइकोला करके हम उसमें डालते हैं, उसका छिड़काव करते हैं। 12-15 हफ्ते में इतनी बेहतरीन हमारी खाद तैयार हो जाती है, वो फैलाते हैं।
हमस
यस, सेट हमारी जमीन का ये हाल हो गया है घर का कि कोई भी चीज कहीं डाल दो उगाती। कहते जब हमने ये जमीन ली थी तब इसका ये नेचर नहीं था। लेकिन एक और चीज भी उन्होंने कही अपनी, ही वॉज वेरी अटैच्ड टू हिज मदर। Last time when we visited his house, she was not there, so we all felt her coming. तो कहते कि जब हमने यहाँ खेती, उन्होंने एक ऐसा फार्म हाउस टाइप का लिया है, थोड़ा शहर से दूर है अहमदाबाद, तो ही कुड गेट मोर लैंड। तो वो कहती थी कि हमारी माँ कहती थी कि तुम मक्का जरूर उगाना। तो उन्होंने कहा मक्का की तो हमें जरूरत नहीं है, कहने तुम्हें जरूरत नहीं है लेकिन तोते आते हैं उनको जरूरत है। और कहते थे जब मैं सुबह मॉर्निंग वॉक पे जाता था तो मुझसे कहती थी कि तोतों को तुम कह कह के बताया करो कि ये तुम्हारे लिए है मक्का, तुम डरा मत करो, ये तुम्हारे लिए हमने उगाया। So when I stayed in his house once with my family, इतने तोते, इतने मोर, इतने जानवर उसमें आते थे और वो सब उनका खाते थे जो उनके लिए उगाया गया था। और वो ये कहते थे, ये प्रिज्यूम करके चलता हूँ कि 15 से 20% इनका है। And he learned it from his mother. तो अब आप इस पे क्या कहेंगे?
सो हार्ड वर्क, डेस्टिनी, ये सारी चीजें एक चीज पे डिपेंड करती हैं कि आपके आमाल क्या हैं।
एग्जैक्टली। और उस
तो
आमाल के पीछे नियत क्या है?
जी एग्जैक्टली। तो बहुत से लोग बोलते हैं कि उसने तो मेहनत नहीं की थी, उसे इतना कुछ अल्लाह मियाँ ने दे दिया, लेकिन हमें नहीं पता कि वो कौन सा ऐसा अमाल कर रहा है जो हमारी नॉलेज में नहीं है और लेकिन अल्लाह को पसंद आ रहा है, तो उसके एवज में उसे वो सारी चीजें मिल रही हैं।
या उसे ढील दी गई है, क्योंकि
एग्जैक्टली।
हर तरह के मॉडल्स ऊपर वाला रखता है ना आपके लिए,
जी जी, कुरान में आया है कि ये
फॉर यू
अल्लाह
टू
ढील देता है।
फॉर यू टू चूज फ्रॉम। हमारे एक एजुकेटर फ्रेंड हैं यहाँ, M.K. शेरवानी साहब, और ही कम्स फ्रॉम अ वेरी व्हाट यू कैन कॉल रेस्पेक्टेबल फैमिली ऑफ अलीगढ़। ब्लॉसम्स स्कूल चलाते हैं वो दोनों हस्बैंड वाइफ। ही इज ए रिटायर्ड सिविल सर्वेंट, रिटायर्ड नहीं बल्कि ही टुक वॉलंटरी रिटायरमेंट टू बी विद हिज फादर। तो वो मुझसे कहने लगे कि हम स्कूल में बच्चों को वैल्यू सिस्टम सिखा रहे हैं, क्या कभी कभी कह रहे थे कि मुझे डाउट होता है कि कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं है कि हम मिसफिट्स पैदा कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि अब जो सोसाइटी है वो दूसरी तरह की है और जो वैल्यूज हम इम्पार्ट कर रहे हैं वो इन्हें कहीं ऐसा ना हो ये बच्चे हमें ब्लेम करें कि आपने तो हमें ये सिखाया और दुनिया में हमारे ये काम आ रहा है। तो अब इसका कोई जवाब नहीं है। मैंने उनसे बस इतने ही कहा कि देखिए ये एक एक्ट ऑफ फेथ होता है, दिस इज एन एक्ट ऑफ फेथ। If you trust those values which are everlasting, like compassion, passion is fine, but compassion is more. और आप देखिए बहुत सी प्रॉब्लम्स अगर आप गौर करें जो हमें हो रही हैं, उसकी क्या वजह है? अगर इस जो सिंपल सा रूल सुनील हांडा सर की माँ ने बताया, क्या हमने इसको कॉम्प्रोमाइज करना नहीं शुरू कर दिया? 20% दूसरे क्रिएचर्स का, आपका नहीं। हमने इनडिस्क्रिमिनेट फर्टिलाइजर्स यूज करना शुरू कर दिए कि कोई कीड़ा नजर ना आए,
नजर ना आए। जी सर।
खेत पे। उसका क्या नतीजा हुआ? जो अच्छे कीड़े थे वो भी मर गए, केचुआ मर गया।
जी।
सर उसकी वजह से जो आपकी बायोलॉजिकल साइकिल है वो पूरी इफेक्ट हो रही है, क्योंकि अगर आप देखें तो आपके जो फर्टिलाइजर्स की वजह से जो क्रॉप्स हैं, ग्रेसेस हैं, वो आपका हर्बीवोरस खा रहे हैं। हर्बीवोरस की डेथ के बाद जो आपका वल्चर्स होते हैं वो अफेक्ट भी हो रहे हैं उसकी वजह से। तो आपका पूरा जो बायोलॉजिकल साइकिल है वही अफेक्ट हो रहा है उसकी वजह से। उसकी वजह से अगर हम लोग ये चीज बोले कि एक जानवर की प्रजाति अफेक्ट हो रही है, वो नहीं कह सकते। उसकी वजह से आपका पूरा इकोसिस्टम अफेक्ट हो रहा है।
Sir, the thing you are mentioning about Sunil Handa sir's mother, that they are making distinguish, they are differentiating between needs and greed. What famous quote of Mahatma Gandhi is exactly what about that? World has enough for everyone's need, but not for one's greed.
वेरी वेरी। तो देखिए हम प्लानिंग पे डिस्कशन कर रहे थे, अब 2 मिनट क्लास के में रह गए हैं तो उसे कंक्लूड करते हैं। देखिए मैं बात कह रहा था आपसे कि ऊपर को वाला ज्यादा है कि नीचे वाला ज्यादा है। मैंने एक कोट पढ़ा, वो मैं आपसे शेयर करता हूँ। देयर आर 3 टाइप्स ऑफ पीपल, दोज हु मेक थिंग्स हैपन, दोज हु वॉच थिंग्स हैपन, and those who wonder what has happened. I wish all of you to be in the first category, people who make things happen. उसके लिए जरूरी है our intention should be right. Then we indulge in right kind of actions. And when we do those actions repeatedly, with consistency, with honest and noble intentions, success is only a doorstep away. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, sir. Assalamu alaikum.